Now it's time to hear the stories of Utes in their own words. This is Utes Insider presented by Pepsi. Here's your host, Mike Legasholt.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. Welcome to Utes Insider presented by Pepsi and University of Utah Health. I'm Mike Legasholt. Thanks for joining us. We are back to work as we head into the month of January in 2021. We've had a little bit of a shutdown with the show because of the holidays and just the furious workflow that's been happening with us after football got going. It's been a crazy fall with staffing and navigating COVID and everything, but we are back with some shows. We've got some good ones planned for you coming up the next few months. And as we finally get the volleyball season underway, hard to believe that it's happening, and it is this month of January. Normally volleyball is well behind us, and they've had their postseason run, which would have been, I think, a good one for this team. As it is, they're ready to go in January. The Utah volleyball team ranked 10th in the preseason of the AVCA poll. That's their highest preseason ranking in school history. And the reason why is they've got 3 All-Americans back from last year, led by Danny Drews and Kenzie Kerber, and 10 players back from a very talented squad that went to the Sweet 16 last season. So Beth Launiere has built this program really from the ground up, starting in 1990 for Sweet 16. She had one a year ago, but she's also written a book. It's called Stop Competing and Start Winning, The Business of Coaching. So Leo Hopf, who is a businessman, very successful in the Salt Lake metro area, has been a supporter of Utah athletics for a long time. He approached Beth about writing a book, and she said no at first. Like all good businessmen, he did not take no for an answer and stay with it, and finally got her to do it. And I've heard great things about it. So we'll talk to Beth about her book, about her upcoming season. Should be a fun conversation. Beth Launiere, the head coach of the Utah volleyball team, coming up next on Utes Insider.
To hear more episodes of this show and other Utah athletics podcasts, search for them on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Now back to more of Utes Insider presented by Pepsi.
And welcome back to the show. It's brought to you by University of Utah Health. With 16 convenient neighborhood health centers, we have a game plan for your family's health. Visit uvuhealth.org. Well, pleased to be joined now by head coach Beth Launiere of the Utah volleyball program. 31st season coming up for her at the U, and it was delayed several months like everything else in the COVID world. But Beth, happy to say we'll have some volleyball coming up. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. I can't believe we're actually going to say we, might play a volleyball match here in a couple days. So I'm pretty excited. I can't believe it might happen, and sounds like it's going to happen. So yeah, we've been 13 months without playing a competition, so we're ready.
Yeah, fortunately, you were able to get your full season in. You had the 19 season, you had your postseason, a great run to the Sweet 16 before things shut down, but you did lose your spring. You lost your normal summer. Your fall did not happen on time. So just like everyone else, you have been impacted tremendously by the COVID-19 pandemic. Just talk about what this has been like for your program. And you mentioned it's been 13 months since your last match, but really the last 9 or 10 months since you had to shut things down like everyone else back in March. It's been a different world for you and your team.
Yeah, it's almost surreal. It's surreal to think about it. It's hard to even put it into words, like what's been going on for the last 10 months. It's just like everyone else. It's hard to even remember because we're all out of sorts with timelines. But we just like everyone else, we found a way we got everybody off campus and got them home and made sure they were safe and healthy. And, and then we took our time kind of, giving them time to adjust everything and figure stuff out. And then, our wonderful, I have what's called a volleyball performance team, and I kind of think it's one of the best in the country. And slowly but surely, we started getting our team back working out at their homes, found out what kind of equipment they have and what they were able to do. And just a lot of communication with them, checking in, phone calls, Zooms. Then kind of during the summer, and then they start coming back around August, and we were supposed to start August 15th. We didn't start until the end of August. Got a little bit of training in, got shut down here and there, and then before so we did get a little work in this fall, which was good. And then, but we were limited. We couldn't go full out, so we hadn't blocked a ball we didn't block a ball for 12 months.
Wow.
Well, that's probably not true. We did a little bit before we were shut down, so maybe 9 months. And then before Thanksgiving, I just said, hey, get out of here again. Go home. Because it's hard. It's stressful. It's following all the protocols, and nothing's normal and nothing's routine, and you have to put thought into everything you do. And so by Thanksgiving, I just felt like we needed to be done for a bit, and got them out of here again. And then they had about 2.5, close to 3 months. And then they came back, and we've been training for 2 weeks, and we're gonna go, or maybe 3 weeks. So, they're resilient. They're amazingly resilient. I'm honestly in awe with their, resolve to make this happen and to make this work and to find a way to just play the sport that they love, and to get back to campus and to get, back into routines of academics. So it's been a whirlwind, but we're just, we're going to play a volleyball match, and I would say we're probably not 100% ready. But nobody is in the country. And so we luckily have a bit of an experienced team. And so we're just going to throw the ball out there and see what we have. But, we're as ready as we can be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you kind of led me to my next question is, in terms of where your team normally would be, say, middle of August, gearing up for that Labor Day weekend or thereabouts start. Is your team in that same neighborhood in terms of physical conditioning and being ready mentally? I mean, this pandemic has weighed on people, not just physically, but mentally. It's just been draining to go through all this. So your team right now, where would you say you are compared to the normal start of a season had you gone where you normally do in late August?
Yeah, I would say we're behind, both physically and mentally, just like you said. Physically, you just can't take the amount of time off, and even if you're training at home, you can't simulate that of being here with our trainers and our strength coaches and our sports scientists and our trainers.
Right. So,
there's no question physically we're a little bit behind, but not horribly. I will say that our players did some work before they came back. We've been pleasantly surprised knowing that we were going to be behind. And then mentally, we have not been able to push them in the preseason camp like we normally would in August. It's just a different feel. Like I said, the routines, you have to think about everything. And so mentally it's definitely draining. So we've not, it's not been a normal preseason, although we tried to make it one, but I quickly realized it wasn't going to be. And then, so how ready are we? Like I said, luckily, we have an experienced team. I think we're okay. I think the players are ready to go. They're ready to play someone. Are we sharp? Are we at our best? Absolutely not. And then we go straight into the Pac-12, with no no out of conference matches, and that's a big change for us. I mean,
right.
You go right into the gauntlet of the Pac-12 is pretty gnarly without any kind of preseason matches, to work things out. So I don't know what the volleyball is going to look like to start, but we're gonna do it.
Well, it's always a tough situation, and it is for everyone to play in these conditions, but especially when you have a team like yours that is so good and prime for such a big year. You hate to see anything be compromised because your team is ranked 10th preseason. That's the highest you've ever been. You've got 3 All-Americans back. This is a team that is set up to be maybe a magical team for you and have one of those special seasons. But like you said, everyone else you play is going to be in the same situation. So let's talk about your team, Beth. A great year last year. You finished 9th in the country in the final AVCA poll. You went to the Sweet 16, 24-10 overall. You won 14 Pac-12 matches, which still is just staggering to me that your team is at that point now. Your program is at that point. Let's talk about your team. You've got some talent back. Who are your headliners coming back for this 2021 season?
We have 2 seniors that were All-Americans. Danny Drews was a first-team All-American, and Kenzie Kerber was a second-team All-American. And I'll tell you this, that they early on, they said, Beth, we want to have our real senior season. And so they were really committed to sticking this out and, staying for their 5th year. And so they've been tremendous leaders for us, through this difficult time, and they're hungry. And, we play this spring, but they'll be back again next fall. So that's exciting. Danny is, of course, she's comes from the Barton clan, as you fans know. And she's an elite athlete. She is I call her, she's a thoroughbred that's a workhorse. She can just go relentlessly. She doesn't stop. She doesn't, she's like Cody, people say this about Cody Barton, I think a lot. They don't stop. They don't slow down. They only have one speed. That's Danny. That's Danny the same way. So a lefty on the left side, tremendous athlete, and she's got big goals. She was a first team All-American last year, and she wants more. So that's pretty exciting. And then Kenzie Kerber's my other lefty. Kind of funny. We have two lefties. Unusual. And Kenzie is a 6'3" kid that's just long and just very, very talented. And she worked really hard during the off season. She was down in SoCal and had a workout, gym in her garage, and she came back actually really great shape.
Wow.
And, one of the best blocking right sides in the country by far. She passes. She does a lot of things for us that most opposites don't do. So we have both of those players attacking out of the back row as well as the front row. And so they're two formidable, attackers that, give us a pretty high powered offense.
Right. So those are your main two. Behind them, who do you have?
Yeah, then Sage. I'm not going to try to say her last name.
I was hoping you would, because I was avoiding it. I think it's Kaina Torres, or did I put too many syllables in there?
No, there's a lot of syllables, and that's exactly right. So she's our setter, and she was an honorable mention All-American last year, just as a sophomore. So she's great. She's so good, and she came back, same thing, like she was worried because she didn't get to train as much. She's from Hawaii, and they weren't allowed to get in gyms for most of the time. And she just stepped back on the court, it was last December. She looks great. And then we have two middle blockers that have been in the program for a few years now, Phoebe Grace and Kennedy Evans. Kennedy was injured last year, so she's back. We're a little bit young in the libero position, and that's, we have a number of defensive specialists that are working in that position, so that's a question mark for us. And then we've got Megan Yad out of Idaho. She's a 6-foot kid that plays in the back row a bunch for us, but she's in great shape too. So she's playing all the way around. We have a lot of pieces, and trying to think who. We've got a player that. First of all, we have Zoe Weatherington, who was a member of the Pac-12 all freshman team last year.
Right.
Anybody saw us play? She hits high and hits hard.
She stands out. That's for sure.
Yeah, she just can hit the ball hard, and she's an athlete and just really physical. She's back, and she's been a little bit limited in camp. She's got a little sore shoulder. But and then we have Maddie Robinson, who transferred up here from BYU and started for them on and off for 2 years. Played in the Final Four with them her freshman year. And she's a 5'10" outside hitter that's just a dynamic athlete. So we've got a lot of pieces. We've got some depth. I think I'm excited about this team. Yeah.
Should be a very good team. 10 players back from a year ago. And as I mentioned, 3 All-Americans back from last season. I talked to Danny Drews during one of our podcasts as sort of an athlete roundtable, and just to get a sense of how they were dealing with everything and thinking about things. And Danny's like, hey, you know what? I've always thought it would be kind of nice to take a break, because he plays beach volleyball for you and plays on the hardwood. And she goes, I'm just go. And she was married recently and just had a lot going on. She said, in some ways this spring, early summer, she felt kind of good about it. It was kind of a mental break, and you kind of get all the physical things healed up. And I asked her, I can't remember if I did during the podcast or after, if she was thinking about maybe not playing had the season happened in the fall, because there might not have been an NCAA tournament, or it wouldn't have been normal. I just said, there are a lot of questions about this year. What are your thoughts? And she wasn't sure at that time, but it sounds like, Danny and Kenzie and everyone else that you were counting on to play this year has committed to playing. Can you talk a little bit about that process with them and how they all arrived at the decision, hey, we're in this together, we're going to play this season?
Yeah, so if we were going to play in the fall, and there were so many question marks, back then, we certainly know a lot more now on how to do this, kind of. I know there's a lot of people losing games here and there, but,
yeah.
They both talked to me about the possibility and the idea of redshirting this past fall. So because they didn't want their senior year to be cut short, right? Mm-hmm. As so many student athletes have gone through that situation. And so I was supportive of them of that. So if we would have played this fall, they probably wouldn't have played. And then the NCAA came out and said, so then they could play next fall. Then the NCAA came out and said, if you play any matches this year are not going to count towards your eligibility. So this is kind of a free season right now. This season isn't going to count. They're still going to have their fourth year next fall. And so that's pretty exciting. And they can, the student athletes can play knowing that if things get cut short, you got to be grateful for whatever we can get in. We're going to be really grateful to just play somebody across the net for as many matches as we can get in. And, hopefully it's a whole season, and, they're going to have an NCAA tournament. It's going to be shortened. It's going to be a smaller field.
Right.
Normally it's 64, so they're going to go to 48. So actually it's going to be really hard to get in the tournament. There's as tough as the Pac-12 is, it's not going to be easy to get into the NCAA tournament. We normally get 8-9 teams in. I think we'll only get 3 or 4 in with the smaller field. So, we had a lot of conversations, Danny, Kenzie, and I, about this idea of they really wanted to have a great senior year, and I think we're going to, be able to have that for them next fall, hopefully.
Yeah, a chance for everyone to get back out and do what they love to do. Visiting with Utah head volleyball coach Beth Launiere on Utes Insider, brought to you by Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi and some friends and get in the game. Pepsi, proud partner of Utah Athletics. Well, Beth, it's been fun talking to people on this podcast since last spring about how people have been spending their time during the shutdown of the pandemic. And you, of all things, wrote a book. And I want to talk to you about this as we kind of wrap things up. It's called Stop Competing and Start Winning, The Business of Coaching. You wrote the book with Leo Hopf, who's been a longtime supporter of the Utah Athletics program. Tell us how the idea to do this came about, and how long maybe you sat on this idea before you actually put some words into a computer and got going.
Yeah, I can't believe I kind of chuckled to myself when I say I wrote a book during COVID. Leo Hopf is a business consultant, and I went to him about 5 years ago and asked him to talk to me about bringing, this idea of bringing principles from other arenas and avenues into sport. And I wanted to get his thoughts on just some stuff like within the workings of the office and staff management and stuff like that. And he was great. He started helping. We started on a journey together where I started really implementing a lot of his ideas and just started building on it. And we just kept creating. It was cool. So we started doing some presentations at the AVCA convention. We've done them the last 3 years. One of the things that I get asked more than anything from young coaches is, how do you manage your staff?
Right.
They don't ask me how to block. They don't ask me, how to pass. They ask me, how do you manage your staff and all the issues that come with that, and running a large program, which is a bit like a small business. So I kind of have gotten passionate about this. He's helped me, and then I think it's a necessary concept for young coaches to understand that, coaching isn't just about the X's and O's and getting on the floor. In fact, that's sometimes the smaller part of it. It's about managing people. So anyway, COVID hit, and about 2 weeks into COVID, he said, "Hey, do you want to write a book?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And and he came back, come on, and are you sure? I said, "Yeah, no, I don't." And so then finally I started thinking about it. And I thought, well, we'll give it a try. He said, "Let's give it a shot." So we committed about 10 hours a week. We were pretty dedicated to the commitment of the book. And I interviewed 12 different coaches from different sports. So that was actually really fun for me to have the time to, get on the phone and spend an hour with these coaches. I mean, I've got quotes in the book from Karch Karai, our national team coach, Tara Vanderveer, who's, playing our women's basketball team right now, the winningest coach in women's basketball history from Stanford. Got some quotes from Urban Meyer and just of course, quotes from volleyball coaches. And so that was really a great experience for me to be able to have that time to do it. Leo did a lot of the writing, and then I actually did a lot more of the writing towards the end, where I was adding a lot of context and kind of stories to the concepts that we covered in the book. So proud of it. I never thought it would be something I would do, but I do feel like it's an important message, and I think it can resonate. We feel like it's going to resonate with all sports, not just volleyball, but we actually think it's, from the feedback we're getting, it's going to be quite a good business book, kind of a leadership management book. His clients are enjoying the book immensely. So, we think it can go in different, a few different directions, but excited about it. And yeah, I wrote a book during COVID.
How about that? Good for you. You've been through so much during your time just here at Utah. I remember early on, you took over a team that won one match in 1989 before you took over in 90. It took you 9 years to reach NCAAs, and back then it was a smaller field. But I remember some of those first years I worked with you, you were so close to making NCAAs, and you didn't get there a couple of times. But you stayed the course. You had a plan, and once you got there, you've been there pretty much on a regular basis. Going back to those early years as you built the Utah program, how much of that experience from like 1990 until 98 is woven into this book, and how you just stayed the course and found a way to get it done here?
Yeah, actually some of that is in the book. I talk about, what my organizational chart, my flow chart looked like back in the early 90s. There were like 5 people on it. And now my flow chart has about 30, 40, 50 people on it when you start talking about all the support staff that we have. And all the things, all the issues that go along with growing from a smaller sport to a bigger sport. And it really hit when we went into the Pac-12, Mike, where, we added a lot of staff as a volleyball program and as a department. And that's one thing. And then I was on the road a ton early on in the Pac-12, just recruiting. And so that's where the growth really was starting to take over. And I was, I call it losing touch points with my athletes, where I wasn't coaching anymore, and I had the whole goal of figuring out how to manage a program is to get back to coaching, get back to doing what you love and working with the athletes on the court and in the film room, and, about life skills and stuff like that. So yeah, early on, a lot of stories from there. And then, definitely woven in, but it's definitely kind of about the progress of the program. I look at it as kind of different eras. You've got the 90s. We finally got to the tournament, moved into the Mountain West. We got the early 2000s, and we were winning a lot of Mountain West Conference championships and doing well. And then we hit the Pac-12, and that was a complete different era.
Right.
But I'm really proud of our program. I mean, we finished 3rd last year, and it's been a slow climb, and it was actually very similar to growing the program in the early 90s, that you had to deal with the growth of it all, very similarly. So it's been quite a ride, and I can't believe I've been here that long, but, like I tell everybody, I say, every year is different. It's the thing about coaching is you take a group of individuals early in the beginning of a season, and you form them into a team by the end. And that's what's so great about coaching. And that's, what I enjoy. And, it's just different every year. You got different characters and different issues. And so every year is just a little different. And I looked up, and it was 30 years.
Yeah. It's crazy. 4 Sweet 16s in there. You've been to the Sweet 16 and 17 and 19 recently. One more question, Beth, and I'll let you go. This Pac-12 era, as you mentioned, has been different for all of us. All of us who were here before, it's like we moved someplace and got a different job. And I know you had chances to leave. You had some success, and there were chances to go somewhere else, and you stayed, and that Power 5 conference job ended up coming to you. Now that you've been through it about a decade, did you think that, hey, once we get to the Pac-12 and get going, we can be a top 10 national program? Was that sort of your realistic goals as you entered this recent era?
Yeah, I 100% believed it. I've always known that the University of Utah and Salt Lake City and the people here were like best in the country, and the university. And it was just a matter of other people realizing it. And once we got the exposure and a little bit of more money in the program to start operating at a higher level, I really didn't have any doubt that all of our programs would make the jump, which they have. That was my plan. And, we have had some great athletes in this program, and we've got this great group of alumni, and boy, we built it on their backs. And now we're just getting some, really elite athletes. But it's all about the exposure. And once people around the country learned about the University of Utah, You're seeing the fruits of it now, their football program and, just across the board.
Been a heck of a ride for you, Beth. 31st season coming up. It didn't happen in the fall like we thought it would, but it's going to happen. And 588 wins in your tenure at Utah. You're the reigning Pac-12 Coach of the Year. I love hearing that. And Beth, best of luck to you. Stay healthy, and let's hope you guys get through it cleanly, and appreciate you taking the time. Thanks
so much. I appreciate it, Mike. And I miss our fans. It's going to be strange not playing in front of them. And, they're such a big part of what we do in the Crimson Club. Man, we miss you guys. So just know that we can't wait for y'all to get back and be a part of what we're doing.
Yep, and catch us on television, hopefully, as much as you can. Beth, good luck. We'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
That's Beth Launiere, head coach of Utah Volleyball. Back to wrap up the show in just a moment.
For more on Utah athletics, including up-to-date schedules and ticket information, log on to utahutes.com. Now back to more of Utes Insider presented by Pepsi.
Today's show also brought to you by University of Utah Health. With 16 convenient neighborhood health centers, we have a game plan for your family's health. Visit uofuhealth.org. Speaking of game plans, we just talked about the book with Utah head volleyball coach Beth Launiere. She wrote it this summer with Leo Hopf, and during the pandemic shutdown, it's called Stop Competing, Start Winning, the Business of Coaching. And as I told Beth at the end, I have not read it. It's downloaded on my Kindle app, and I hope to get to it, but I've heard really good things about that. And always interesting, the parallels between athletics and business and how they go back and forth. Sports people read about business leaders, and business leaders read about coaches all the time. And I'm curious to dive in and see this. But, as I talked to Beth, and we didn't get into a lot of her time as a coach here. I worked with her back in the mid-'90s, just as she had the program on the verge of making postseason. And then 96 and 97, they were just so close to making NCAAs, did not get there, but Beth did not waver. She finally got there with their team in 1998. I remember going with them to Lincoln, Nebraska. I'd never seen a group of people so happy to go to Lincoln, Nebraska in December. I mean, it wasn't like we were going to Hawaii or we were going to California or Arizona. We were going to Lincoln, Nebraska in the month of December, and they could not have been happier to go. They played great. They won their first match. They played an NCAA competition. They took down Illinois State and then went on to the second round, lost to Nebraska. But that was a very talented team in 98. And as I said to Beth, once she got things going, they went to NCAAs from 1998 to 2006. They won again in 2008. And then after the Pac-12 transition happened, they got back in 2013. They've been all but 1 year since then. And just a tremendous run for Beth Launiere. In fact, they went to the Sweet 16 in 2017 and 2019. And what a great run it's been for Beth Launiere as she closes in on 600 career wins, all coming during her 31-year career at Utah. That will do it for today's show. Coming up next week, we'll check in with Utah Gymnastics head coach Tom Fart, and his team is ranked top 4 in the country. They were robbed of their postseason a year ago. They were ranked 4th, poised for a big-time postseason run that did not happen. So the Red Rocks back in action. We'll talk to Tom on our next podcast, and hope you've enjoyed all these. We're back with our normal schedule, so check us out on iTunes, on the Apple Podcasts, also wherever you get your podcast. Check us out, the Utes Insider, and thanks for joining us. Thanks to Mike Gillen on the technical side. I'm Mike Lagesholt. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Utes Insider presented by Pepsi. To hear more episodes of this show and other Utah athletics podcasts, search for them on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.